For all the people out there for the last couple of years throwing Dak Prescott under the bus, that he's not a winning quarterback, that he beats all the bad teams and never wins against the good teams. You play to win the game. You play whoever's on your schedule. Now, obviously, he's had problems with San Francisco and the Eagles over the last couple of years. Nobody's going to compare him to the elite quarterbacks in the league, even though he's been elite. Numbers. Better than Patrick Mahomes. Better than Lamar Jackson. Better than Jalen Hurts. His numbers are as good or even better than any of these quarterbacks that right now are on the list to win the MVP. What does that tell you about Dak Prescott? If Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback, he is absolutely an elite quarterback right now. And when you have Aaron Rodgers sticking up for him, when you have had other quarterbacks coming out over the last 2 years saying that Dak is for real, Dak is a good quarterback, he's a legitimate quarterback in this league, and everybody has thrown him to the wolves and said that this guy stinks, get rid of him, he's going to make $60 million next year. Dak Prescott's the MVP of the league.
Yeah, and it's easy to do. Oh, he can't win the big game. One, it's a regular season award. And two, it's fine to be worried about that kind of thing with any quarterback that's had issues in the playoffs when he still has had that good of a regular season. Lamar Jackson's had issues in the playoffs. Are we going to downgrade Lamar Jackson?
Everybody
for being MVP?
does.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning's had problems as far as the playoffs are concerned. In the regular season, he's a dominant quarterback.
Plenty of MVPs have games where they're going to stat pad, looking at big games against bad teams. That's the argument a lot of people are going to make too. Dak Prescott's doing it against the Giants and the Commanders and all that. Lamar Jackson's done that for years too against the Browns. Patrick Mahomes did it against the Raiders and the Chargers. Everyone's going to have their great games against bad teams. It happens. Patrick Mahomes had his best game of the year against the Bears. Like, is anyone going to say, oh, it was the Bears? You have to have that same logic for Dak Prescott's kind of thing too. I think Jalen Hurts, he's the one that's probably the most out of it because I think his 11 rushing touchdowns are more like, okay, you got a lot on the 1 yard line. That's less on him than it is with the offensive line. I think it's a good race between the rest of those three of them because Mahomes, no receivers. Lamar Jackson's doing with the rushing and still a lot of injuries on that offense. And Dak Prescott has done it at the best number rate.
Who has Patrick Mahomes beaten this year? He lost against Philly. Did he have such a great game? Yes, obviously they could have won the game. And you've heard Aaron Rodgers say it. It takes a lot to play the position. It takes a lot to call plays and look at the line of scrimmage and see what the linebackers are doing, see what the safeties are doing, how they're going to run a blitz, how are they going to bring up the defensive linemen or a blitz package of bringing up corners, all the different styles you're going to call the plays at the line of scrimmage so your offensive line could read it and understand it. It's not an easy position. That's why the quarterbacks make the most money. I'm not saying Dak Prescott is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I'm not saying that he's better than Patrick Mahomes, but this year, he's been the best quarterback in the NFL. As a Jet fan, I would absolutely die if we had Dak Prescott as our starting quarterback. I would love it. I know Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback, and I'm happy that Aaron Rodgers, when he does play, is going to be the Jets quarterback. But right now, Dak Prescott would be phenomenal on the New York Jets. Do you know what Garrett Wilson's numbers would be right now? Look at CeeDee Lamb. Look what CeeDee Lamb has done in the last couple of years. You think it's just CeeDee Lamb making those plays? Dak has to put those balls in the position for him to grab. So I don't understand why everybody throws this guy to the wolves and thinks that, oh, you know what? It's Dak Prescott. He stinks. He was a 4th-round draft pick. And Tony Romo's so beloved. What did Tony Romo do? He was a good quarterback. If you look at Dak's numbers to Tony Romo's, Dak is a way better quarterback than Tony Romo.
Yeah, we talk about like second-tier quarterbacks, like they're trying to make that climb to have that kind of big year to get to that elite status because there are obvious elite quarterbacks and then there's guys that are right on the fringe. Dak Prescott was always thought of in that maybe 8 to 12 tier of quarterbacks. This kind of year, having the third, second quarterback year definitely has to elevate him to overall quarterback 5 or 6. And he's doing it in circumstances that are still not like the easiest. It's not like he has the Philly skill players around him or the Bengals skill players around him.
He's got one player, CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb has had a phenomenal year.
I want to hear about Pollard because he stinks this year.
Pollard's had an inconsistent year, and CeeDee Lamb has probably had the 3rd or 4th best wide receiver year individually. But think about Brandon Cooks they brought in, did not do much until recently. Michael Gallup's still trying to find his way back from the injury. Yep. Offensive line's been banged up. They have a nice second-year tight end with Ferguson, who's played well, but these aren't the Eagles or the Bengals or any teams like that skill players. You have this great supporting cast around you, and Mike McCarthy is a decent coach. Are you going to call him like a genius? I don't think so. I don't think any Packers fans would call him a genius when Aaron Rodgers was there.
And Brett Favre.
You're not dealing with like the A+ amazing circumstances to help him out either, so he definitely has a legitimate case. Now, I think he has more to work with than Lamar Jackson right now, but Lamar Jackson also had Mark Andrews, who just got hurt, and still had a good offensive line. All the circumstances are not going to say, all right, Dak Prescott is that much better of circumstances than Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts, who is also on that list and is leading for whatever reason, has the most to work with by far.
Way most to work with. I mean, A.J. Brown, Swift has been fantastic. Best offensive line in football. What does Dak have? Why does everybody hate this guy? And Aaron Rodgers said it best. How could you ever torch this guy the way you have this year? He has been as good as any quarterback in the NFL.